Hello everyone and welcome to today's painting demonstration. I'm going to go over how to paint this apricot sunset scene. It's going to be over a very calm ocean and we're going to include a couple little sailboats, a little bit different than our reference photo, which is available for you in the art community Discord, and the links for that are in the description of the video. So let's get started. I'm going to be starting our underpainting with this large filbert brush. And I'm using burnt sienna for the underpainting. I'm going to focus on putting in the darker values first, which there's not a whole lot of them, just the bottoms of the boats. I'm going to use horizontal brush strokes to get their boat reflection in, and then from there on out I'm going to be going to more of a medium by just using some water. I'm going to try not to get any of this medium value on our sails. I'd rather go a little bit under than be painting over something that's going to be bright white, and that is our focal point as well. It's going to be some shadows on these big billowy clouds. Once again, I'm adding water to lighten up our underpainting paint. Dab some of it off on the paper towel. And there's our lightest value. Now, when I put this color on the ocean, I'm going to make sure to use horizontal brush strokes like what we're going to, moving on from this step. And a little bit darker towards the horizon line. Don't want that horizon line to pull too hard. Okay, so now I'm just gonna darken up the corners just a little bit. And that is it for the burnt sienna. And I'm going to rinse out my brush really well. I'm going to pick up a little bit of cadmium yellow, leaving a lot of the water on that brush. And I'm going to highlight our sunspot and just paint over a little bit of the sienna medium tone. And any white that's showing, I'm just going to go over it with that yellow. Okay, that's our completed underpainting. We're going to put away the big filbert brush, bring out my reference photo again. Let's work on the sky, and I'm going to use my smaller filbert brush for the sky. So using titanium white and a touch of cerulean blue, I'm going to make a little bit of a gradient from our lightest blue color to the darkest blue that I'm going to use. And right there is about right. So now I'm going to pick up the darkest blue color and I'm going to start on the upper edges. And just across that top edge, I'm going to put in our most saturated, darkest blue. Being really light with the brush strokes here. The paintbrush is almost parallel to what I am painting on. And I know I'm going to have to double that up. So I'm going to pick up the next lighter color and just blend that over the existing blue. I'm going to rinse all of that out and then pick up straight white. And I'm going to blend into the yellow we put down on the underpainting. I'm going to try to make sure that that's pretty smooth. Okay, now I'm going to leave all of that alone because it has to dry before I do anything else. I recognize that I want to put another couple layers of blue on those parts. But for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some apricots. So I'm going to take cadmium yellow light, cadmium red. We're going to get a nice orange color going, nice medium orange. Bring some titanium white over to the side of it. And I'm going to gently mix towards the orange until I get a gradient that I like. That's a good apricot, but I used all of my orange, so I'm going to just mix a little bit of that over here. Now I have more of a gradient that I like. Okay, now I'm going to add more of a magenta, a light magenta color down here. I'm just going to pick this up a little bit for the shadows and the clouds. It's a little bit too purple, so I'm going to add a little bit of cadmium red and then a lot more white. Okay, that's about right, I think. These are the main colors that I'm going to be using. I think I can get rid of this guy for now. I'm going to pick that filbert brush back up. And that dark blue, if you still have some of it. If not, that's easy enough to mix. I'm going to go to the ocean area and just paint approximately a mirrored version. It doesn't have to be super exact of where the blue is in the sky. Just keep your brush strokes horizontal. And it's okay if they're pretty transparent, that's fine. And just as you get closer to the horizon line and to the sun, just make sure you pick up lighter blue. And already this is looking pretty lovely. I think that blue in the sky is still a little bit wet, a little too wet for me to put another coat on, so I'm just going to jump over to the clouds. Lighter oranges and peaches towards the sun, and it's going to get more purple as it goes away from the sun. So I'm going to go ahead and overlap a little bits of our designated cloud space. A little bit of white for our sunspot. I might double up on the color that's around the sun because I see a little bit of pencil. I'm going to add a little bit of apricot to this area too. All right, now I'm reapplying that white. For the sun. There we go. That's a lot better. I'm going to go round 2 on that apricot highlight on those big puffy clouds, overlapping parts of the background sky. Just going to keep them loose and billowy. Now, as I move inwards towards the other side of the cloud, I'm going to progressively pick up darker colors. Still on orange right now, though. It's a lot of overlap and underlap in this part. Just trying to keep vague and loose, using a similar style brush stroke. Right now I'm just patting in a semicircle motion. And that way each layer is incorporated with the texture. It's all going to look more cohesive that way. I'm going to try picking up some of this mauvey pink. I'm going to the shadow side, and I'm just going to blend it back into what we just put down. Trying to keep the edges of these brush strokes really soft. So that's a much more saturated, darker color. Okay, I'm going to keep those purples predominantly on the right side because it's further away from the sun. This cloud is going to stay lighter, but I am going to incorporate this more purpley mauve color along the entire horizon. But in order to do that with no dry brushing, I'm going to add a little bit of water to the paint. I'm not going to worry about those sails too much right now. I'll clean them up later. I think it's more important that we get some smooth horizontal brush strokes on that horizon line. Okay, that's about it for the purple. Now I see that the sky is nice and dry, so I can add my double up layer to that. I'm gonna need to mix a little bit of that. If you mix too much, if you bring like too much blue out, instead of progressively adding more and more white to make the right color, scoot all of that dark color completely over and then add your white to the side of it and just take a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more until you get the right color, so that you're not wasting paint on just lightening or darkening or changing something. Add it over to the side, just kind of branch out. Here comes our second coat of blue. I'm gonna be overlapping and underlapping the area that we painted before. This is gonna add texture and depth of color. And go right over some of the clouds that we've put in already. Now I'm gonna go lighter. Okay, now I'm gonna transition over to white, but I'm out of room on my palette, so I need to make a spot. Okay, I'm gonna make sure that filbert brush is nice and rinsed out. All right. Now, work on that gradient. Be very light with the paint here. I want it to be well mixed into the blue and just subtly go over the yellow and apricot that's here. Lint. Oh no, another lint. The worst. Okay, I dabbed a little bit more white on the sun there. I'm going to pick up the lighter orange and I am going to go back to the sun side of that cloud, of all of our apricot clouds, and just do some final texture work. I'm going to flare out some of these shapes to look more natural, more puffy. Using all the similar kind of brush stroke. Away from the sun, you're going to get a little bit darker. I'm going to pick up some darker, more saturated orange. That'll break up some of this purple space, which just looks lovely. The orange and the purple there. No purple on the left side, just a little bit of deeper orange towards the bottom as we go towards the horizon line. Making a really pleasant gradient. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like the sun is distractingly large, which is unfortunate. So you could just leave it, but I feel like I want to fix mine. It's a little too big. So I'm just going to grab some white and yellow and a little bit of orange. And I'm going to paint around it with a point brush. If you don't want to mess with yours, I totally understand. You wouldn't want to mess with it unless it really bothered you, because this could be a lot of work for a small amount of impact, depending on you. Almost there. It's funny, it's almost half as big as it was. But that's okay. Now I'm going to blend this color out. Okay, I'm making sure that that color is well incorporated into the area, so it doesn't just look like I painted over it. Okay, quite a bit smaller, quite a bit smaller. I'm gonna dab just a final blob of white on that spot and call that good. I'm gonna pick up the filbert brush again. Not done with him yet. He's the star of the show, I think, on this painting. So I think what I see right now is that I want to darken up the paint behind the sailboats just a little bit. I'm going to pick up that magenta color. I'm deepening it just a little bit more with magenta, and I'm picking up a little bit of burnt sienna. What that's going to do is that's going to deepen the value and also bring it towards orange a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to rinse that brush off, dry it off on the paper towel, and then I'm going to blend the edges using horizontal brush strokes. So that is blurring the border of the horizon to the ocean, from the clouds into the ocean. And that darkness is directing you to our focal point. It's going to create the contrast we need right there. Okay, now using those semicircle brush strokes, I'm going to incorporate that color into some of the shadows just lightly. I'm mixing a lighter peach color because I'm completely out of that color, and I'm going to touch up a couple clouds, give them some extra highlights, and then we'll be done with the sky completely. This apricot here is a little bit more yellow than the previous one. I'm being really light with these brush strokes. Okay, now those same oranges that we're just using in the clouds, I'm going to fill in the rest of the ocean, but I'm going to just take these colors and just integrate them in. Now you can use the filbert brush that we've been using all this time. You can also switch to a flat if you're more comfortable with that. It's okay if you leave some of the underpainting showing here. This is very similar in tone. Your brush should have a good amount of water in it too. That'll help you get a watery, smooth brush stroke. I'm mixing a little bit more of that yellow peachy color. That's gonna go reflected from our sunspot. And I'm just gonna go back and forth over our blue reflection as well, bringing that color down. You'll just move back and forth between different colors that you used in the clouds until you feel like you have something representative of a reflection. You'll have to excuse me, I'm not going to eat cheese anymore. After this video with the For those who are just like on the edge of lactose intolerant, you'll know what I'm talking about. It was pizza night, and it was a risk. It's not going to be a risk I'm taking anymore. Almost there with a good integration. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Now, I think we're done with the filbert brush completely. If you're pleased with the blending that you have in the clouds and sky and everything, you can just put that guy down to rest. I am going to pick up the point brush that I used earlier to fix that sunspot, and I'm going to add just a little bit of a sun reflection coming down onto the water. Gonna wedge the brush in the palette to make sure it's nice and sharp, and just a tiny, you're gonna want to stay straight, so right on that third line, just a little. Reflection coming down. Now I'm going to paint the white on the sail. Okay, so now I have some bright white sails, so they're a little too white for me. I'm gonna add kind of a mauve color, but a soft light mauve to the away side of the sail. These sailboats have little flags on top, but they're very, very dainty, and I had a problem adding them with the point brush that I had. I had a number 2 point brush. It was a little too big. A little too big. So I'm gonna take my liner, and this is a number 1 liner, and that'll be a lot easier. They're going to get a little bit of that shadow mauve color too, and then I'm going to use a light yellow with some titanium white, and I'm going to warm up the sun edge, and I'm just going to leave a little bit of white between the shadow and the lit edge. I'm going to use that burnt sienna magenta color for the boat. Maybe a hair of cerulean blue just to cool that color down, to mute it down a little bit. Now that's better. With my liner, I'm just going to detail in the boat. I'm going to leave the bottom of the boat nice and flat where it meets the water, not rounded. There's a decent amount of boat underneath the water that we're not going to be able to see. You gotta remind yourself of that. The mast goes all the way up to that little flag. And then along the bottom edge of the sail as well. I don't know what part of the boat that's called, but it's like a boom arm? Something like that. A little bit more shadow on that sail. And now that shadow color that I made for the boat, the bottom of the boat that is, I'm going to pull that into the water as a reflection. So just horizontal strokes that are kind of vague. They just come right up to the bottom. You can zigzag them away from the boat. Now we're going to need some of that light peach color. And do the same thing with the sail color. Decent amount of water in your brush for bristle control. And just zigzag. Gently put the reflection for your sail. And that little flag. There we go. Let's make it real vague, really impressionistic. Okay, now I'm taking a kind of just an overall view of what we have. I like how soft everything is. It's very dreamy. I might take the flat brush and just put some water lines in that are a little bit sharper than the filbert can give us. And with each layer that you put down on the water, it's going to give you just a little bit more dimension. So don't be afraid of doing that. I don't think you can overdo it. On adding reflection to water. Just gently remix colors as you need them. If they're dramatically different than what you hoped for, just make sure to integrate them into other parts of the scene. I'm just going to pull some yellow all the way up forward, and then come back on the edges of those darker orange zones. I'm going to be bold and darken up that spot right behind the sailboat. Now that's going to be harder to do between the boats, but I'm just going to be really mindful of where my bristles are. And the nice thing about the flat is that you can angle the brush to make it smaller. If I only had one brush, it would be this one. There, that's more like what I wanted with the darker color. I feel like that works. That makes our sailboats turn out. This is very dreamy. It reminds me of that movie, I guess it's something like Life of Pi. It has that ethereal type quality to it. Well, this was a fun, nice kind of impressionistic scene. I feel like it's pretty beginner friendly because there's a lot of forgiving features. The water is very forgiving and so are the clouds. So I hope that even in the beginning of your painting journey, you can try something out like this and be happy with it. I feel like the hardest parts would be just liking the shapes that you make on the boat, getting that shading on the sail just right. Either way, I hope you had fun with that and that you enjoyed this painting process video, and until next time, happy painting!